Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you back to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast, where we will get back to the bone-chilling interview with native Northwest Ohioans Tim and Charma, who are listeners of this podcast and contacted us to share their experiences of living in a real haunted house for over 10 years. Without any more delay, let us return to this eerie interview already in progress where we left off last week.
So it wasn't them.
And somebody yelled your...
Someone yelled my name. A man yelled my name.
And I never slept really sound the whole time because somebody would get in your face and go, shh, or wake up, or get up. You would feel the
You
cold
feel the wind on your face
breeze.
when that happens.
So there's a common theme that's run through some of our stuff about the witching hour being 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So how often, if ever, did you guys wake up right around 3 a.m.?
Very often.
A lot. Yeah.
Tim probably nightly.
Every night.
See, every night, for 15 years, for literally 15 years, every night at 3 a.m. I woke up. And it might have been 3:01, 3:02, 3:03. But keep in mind, my alarm clock wasn't necessarily aligned with the atomic clock in England or wherever it is.
Right.
So, and there is, for people who've listened to our shows, that there's this theory that during the witching hour, which is actually 3 a.m., is that the veil between our world and the paranormal, supernatural that are out there is at its thinnest. And people who are attuned to the paranormal get jolted and waken up because they can feel the energy coming through there. So
Tim's a big sensitive guy.
any of this,
No, wait a second.
He picks up on stuff.
Wait a second. I could see the Ozark Howler laughing at that.
Well, there's a gentleman at work that wants to speak with you. He grew up in similar situations. I'll tell you more about it after the episode, but I'm sure our audience will be involved in this. We'll definitely explore another episode.
so this might be a good segue for the Howler to give us his theory on 3 a.m.
I don't have a
witching
theory.
hour.
I mean, I don't have a theory. I didn't say that either. I'm just saying.
It's just I don't believe it.
That's the veil being the thinnest is what I was laughing at. That was just so eloquently. Your command of the English language spoken is just without par on this podcast. I assure you.
I have a very large
But
lexicon.
I don't know what made me think I was so funny. I just did. I still do.
Well, there's definitely something to it, though.
So what you're saying is things would interrupt your sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Wake you up.
And it got worse
Purposely
after we
wake
had
you
our
up.
daughter with that.
Okay.
So the when we found out we were having Ivy,
Well, leading up to that, because we tried to have Ivy. There was nothing wrong with either one of us. So we tried to have this baby for very long time.
Sure.
So we kind of gave up. We figured, I thought the house was cursed. Let
me say that. You thought the house was cursed.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, you just say, look, let's just put it up for sale.
No.
Let's get out of here. What about let's set it on fire, burn it down quickly?
Well, we thought about that several times. But no, I don't know. It was just, I don't know.
Dwayne Watson.
Yeah. Well, as far as I could research, there were never children that ever lived in the home.
Okay.
The people that owned it before us, they didn't have any children at all. So I said, as long as we stay in this house, it's never going to happen. And we kind of just gave up. We just figured that wasn't meant for us, and we were
But there was
okay with
something
that.
about that house that was prohibiting you from conceiving a child.
Something.
The former owners, they
They-
lived here since the 50s, and they didn't
have any children. So some friends had asked us to go to Vegas with them. So we said, oh, well, we're saving for this baby for cribs and things like that. We're like, forget that. We're going to Vegas.
We talked about buying a Harley.
Yeah. We're
Wow.
going to Vegas. So we go to Vegas. And I said, wait, in Vegas it'll happen. And lo and behold, what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay there. She comes home and her name is Ivy. So anyhow, so we come back, and at that point we don't know. And we're not real concerned with it. We kind of
We weren't going to have kids.
So
that's
Ivy
just
was
the way it is.
conceived while in Vegas.
yes. And that was the first time since we had decided we wanted to have a baby that we had left, that we had gone anywhere. And it was like over a year at that
So we're
point.
talking some serious paranormal birth control.
Something's going on there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we come home and we didn't give it two thoughts. And one night, all hell breaks loose. It was, you wouldn't even believe it.
We were.
Tell us.
It was.
We were. Well, she was asleep, and of course, I'm awake like always. It was probably 2, 3 o'clock, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I hear this distant, sound of a baby crying, and I'm thinking,
We'd never heard that before.
am I really hearing this?
Right.
Is it what else could it be? Is it a bird or something outside that's making this noise, or fox or something? And she kind of rolls over half awake, half asleep, half awake, and says, "Shut that damn baby up."
Well, you're gonna make a great mom.
I know. My mom be here asking.
And I'm like, so I'm laughing, and I wake her up, and I said, "Do you really hear this baby?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" Well, then we hear
After that, yeah.
bam, bam, bam on the wall behind us,
You could feel it.
and then bam, 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 and then
Like
one
something
more
was
time.
inside the wall.
Our bed was up against the wall that connected with the old attic.
The old attic.
And it felt like someone was in the attic wall banging on it. And you
then,
could feel
and
the
then it was
vibration.
another time. So it's not just
There were 3 sets of
something
3.
falling over that we had stored in here. So I get up and I look around. I thought it was probably a raccoon or something,
With a really big fist.
or something got in the
That's
a
a big
bird
raccoon.
flying around in there. Something got into a crack because it's unfinished. So I'm looking around and there's nothing in there. Nothing. It's weird.
Yeah. And the rest of the night, it just was weird. This different things happening. And
Did you get the impression that maybe whatever was in there was angry that you were pregnant?
I wonder. And so after that, that's how we thought, well, maybe we should check. Maybe we should, do the test and all that kind of stuff. And we did, and found out that we were having Ivy. That's how we found out we were having Ivy.
Well,
The ghost she was mad.
The small bedroom upstairs, when I took the old paneling down and stuff that was in there was wallpaper on there, like children's wallpaper. But yet nobody had any kids.
Maz may be
On
jealous.
record.
Yeah. Someone wanted a child and got ready for a child.
Or
And
maybe there was a child that was deceased.
yes, that we thought about that too.
That's when you're telling, that's the first thing that comes to my head is at what point did somebody have a child that didn't?
They lost.
Yeah. And I keep thinking about that lead box, and then the crazy stuff that runs through your head, and it's like maybe if the owners previous to that never had kids, was something from another.
Well,
preventing them
from having kids,
and
because
then,
if we couldn't have a kid,
you shouldn't have one.
Yeah, you
either.
should
You
have
know,
a kid.
another angle, and this comes more right out of movie lore, is that, but this is true. People, 1800s, people who had children that would be born back then, the medical term of art would have been mentally retarded. Now they'd be developmentally delayed, disabled. They didn't. A lot of those they didn't take them out. They kept them in the house.
Yeah.
They never took them out. Never showed them. And we still have people to this day. When I was in private practice, there would be 60, 70-year-old people who were mentally retarded, who had never ever received government services because the parents never took them out. They never went and signed them up for any type of disability. They never got them involved with the board of MRDD because you just didn't do that. You were embarrassed by them and you kept them. So you get 50, 60-year-old people who have no services available to them because the families kept them basically shut in. So I'm not saying this happened, but you could have easily had a child like that never got to experience the world, was stuck there because mom and dad didn't want to take them out.
And stuck there in the afterlife too.
yeah.
I thought about that.
The place was always strange. There were locks on interior doors, to prevent something from coming downstairs. There was slide deadbolts when we bought it. There was a chain on the bedroom door,
The house
in the
I grew
house.
up in on Route 4, which is down which I'll explain, was horribly haunted per se. We always found it strange that in the one bedroom where there was a lot of paranormal stuff happening, there was a lock on the inside of the closet door.
Yeah.
You could go into the closet and lock yourself in, and nobody could get to you.
Yeah.
And we always found it, and it was a big closet. And the weird thing about that closet is it connected to the crawl space, which would go eventually get you up into the attic. And we always thought, this is really bizarre that there is a lock on the inside. It was almost as if like people were locking themselves in and hiding from something. It's just weird.
Okay, so what else?
So we have Ivy.
You have Ivy.
Yeah,
okay.
the whole time we're having her, we're expecting her. The entity is just
At
crazy.
that time, she was at home by herself a lot in the evenings,
Yeah.
and she would always be like calling me or
Are you
texting
coming
me.
home?
Are you coming home? When are you coming home?
Yeah. I would get the dogs and we would like hide in the bedroom until he got home with the TV on and the
Are you
lights
about
on.
home yet? Are you home yet?
Yeah. He'd get home like.
So tell us about what level of anxiety did you have?
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. The anxiety was terrible. And
how many people do you think, if you would have went and told, like some guy sitting out in the Ozarks, would actually believe what you were telling them?
Oh, they wouldn't have. And yeah, people still don't believe. I will tell them my story and they will say, oh, you've made that up. No, I can tell you. I assure you that I saw what I saw. I heard what I heard. We experienced what we did. And
there's no
it's
personal
unbelievable.
gain for telling these stories.
No.
I don't know whether you know this or not, but there's no check at the end of this podcast
No,
for your
darn.
story.
Well, Shane
No.
promised us $20.
I'm nothing but a filthy liar,
But-
so
and I have the judge to back me up.
So your anxiety is through the roof. You hate being there by yourself.
And
Yeah.
you're pregnant.
Right.
Right.
And I'm not a person that doesn't like to be by myself. I still, it doesn't, in our new house, we don't have things like that going on. I don't mind being there at all by myself. When I was growing up, I spent a lot of time by myself because I was an only child. I had an only mom and she worked all the time. So I was used to being by myself. That wasn't a big deal to me. And, but expecting a baby, him being gone a lot at that point in time, and we have this ghost running around who throws pumpkins at me. I was not happy to be there, and it was terrible. Yeah, it was scary. That I think is the point that it got scary, because before that it was just like, okay, Bess is here. She'd get a little riled up. We'd say, okay, Bess, calm down.
You're bringing
she
a
would.
baby to this house.
Yes.
And this stuff's going on.
Yes.
You know?
Well, at
That's
some
when
point
it
you
gets-
have to say to yourself, look, I mean, if this thing, whatever's in here, wants to harm my baby, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
No, and that's when we started thinking that way. And after we brought her home there, it got really weird. We had a baby monitor. The baby monitor was obviously in her room. We had one of the receivers in our room, and then
Another
one downstairs. And it was in the bathroom. But the bathroom was kind of central downstairs, and that's why we put it there. We could hear it everywhere. You would hear weird stuff on that baby monitor.
Like what kind of stuff?
You tell that.
I was downstairs brushing my teeth or whatever, and I heard
I had gone to work already.
Ivy's closet door open because it creaked. It was an old house, you know, and I heard sounded like real faint footsteps on the carpeted floor, and this really sweet voice tell Ivy, "It's okay, baby. Stop crying."
Had she been crying?
And no, she wasn't crying.
Which is even weird.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know, but then she kind of started stirring. You know, you could, you know, how on those monitors you can hear the baby start rolling and stirring around and stuff. And then eventually she started crying. I went up and got her.
When you heard that voice, did you like run to the room, or
Well,
did it just like
it was
freeze
kind
you
of
up,
like it was kind of like what the world, you know. So I kind of automatically started heading that way. About the time you could hear her start rolling around, you know, you just want to make sure what's going on. You know, somebody in the house. That's your first thought. But then you remember, well, those monitors can pick up cordless phones and others.
CV traffic.
Yeah.
Because there's all kinds of truckers trying to soothe their babies
Right.
Yeah.
with a sweet woman's voice.
But it was just a real nice, pleasant, sweet voice. It wasn't scary, or so you don't really panic, you know,
Right.
either.
You get the impression that maybe there were two competing interests. You had the
2 to
friendly
3.
Bess that would be, maybe it was Bess that were nurturing the child, and then you had these other entities that was angry that the child was there in the first place.
I don't know.
And like on the baby monitor, you know, you can hear CB traffic once in a while on Route 4 but every night I would hear this preacher preaching hellfire and brimstone, and it would be real late, real faint. It would sometimes it'd be choppy, sometimes not be choppy.
It was the same sermon.
It was the same sermon every night.
So you weren't picking up.
Amen.
You weren't picking up some sort of satellite TV evangelist because they would have given you. They would have given you a different show.
And it was like a southern.
Oh yeah, I can hear it. I can feel it. They weren't dancing though. They were just preaching.
You know.
You can feel.
You know, and it was the same thing every night, and it was just creepy.
The world was coming to an end.
Oh, so you could hear.
Sinners repent.
Yes.
What else did they say? I can't remember. You had it memorized.
Yeah.
At that point, did you think it's time to repent?
Yeah, we were looking for another house at that point. Yeah.
But we weren't really financially in a good spot.
Right. You couldn't just say, you know what, enough with this. Let's go buy another house. We'll list this for sale. When this sells, we'll settle up at the bank.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
And if you go into the bank and say, "Hey, look, the house is haunted. You can have it back.
Get out.
Yeah.
You can have it back." The banks will be like, "Huh." No.
Well, I think that was a phenomenon that I experienced because my story a little bit down the road is I just built a house.
Yeah.
And, you're financially actually chained to that residence. You can't just up and leave. There's nothing you can do short of committing some sort of arson on your own house.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say maybe it'll burn down while we're gone or something like that.
Which is terrible to think that you guys have lived somewhere and you've done all this work.
Yeah.
You've had your baby there and raising your kid.
We took it from a dump.
It was beautiful when we left it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
now let me ask you this: did you guys ever? So you bought it from the same people who had lived there since the 50s. Yeah. Did you ever go back and ask them if anything happened?
She was in a nursing home. He had died, and she was in a nursing home, so she was really elderly. So we never.
And they didn't have kids.
They didn't have kids. No.
Did they have any relatives or anybody?
The neighbor guy took care of her.
We talked to him about it a little bit.
And what did he?
He said she always heard things, and you know how old ladies are.
Yeah, it was brushed off like that.
Jerry's our genealogist. Is going to have to do some research to see if we can connect some dots on this house.
Exactly.
So I'm sure you know the man that used to take care of her. He lived on the corner of Heber and Beech Grove.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we all know the man that we both know the man that took care of. And so he never experienced anything himself.
Apparently not. I know, like when we bought the place, before I changed the locks, he would go in because another neighbor said, "Hey, he was in your house."
When we were buying it, like right after we bought it.
Maybe you try and turn that orange light out.
Maybe he did.
And I just figured, he thought he owned the whole neighborhood, so he was just thought he still owned it. Yeah. I don't know.
So what other things happened that gave you? Because we've talked a lot about, these things are sort of, not scary, and now we're trying to get it into scary. Anything else happened that would cause you to say, "Hey, look, this is too much. It's time to go"?
Ivy got bigger, and she talked really early. She started talking at 5 months old, and so she was able to articulate very, very young on what she was seeing. And I would have her sitting like in her high chair. I remember one day really clearly. I had her in her high chair. She was actually in the dining room, but she's right next to the door. I was in the kitchen. I could see her and what she was doing, and she pointed towards the back door, and she said, "Look, Mommy, that man is standing there. Who's that man?" I didn't see a man, but she very clearly saw a man there, and was very adamant that she needed to know who this man was. And
did you ask if he had suspenders in?
I didn't. No, I didn't ask her any questions. I'm like, I don't see a man, and we tried to brush off because we didn't want to scare her either. But she, after it started kind of screwing around with her and she was seeing things, we knew we needed to get out. One night we were sleeping and he saw a black mass over the bed.
Like a cloud.
Yeah.
Just
over her bed?
Over our bed.
Over your bed, okay.
But that was after we had paranormal.
We had paranormal investigators come in.
Oh, you guys had
kind of stuff. Yeah, it was really riled it up. But it would.
So you don't have to tell us the name if you don't want to. But how did you find it?
A friend of mine. It was a cousin of hers actually, and I worked with her, and she had asked if we wanted him to. He had just started
started.
Yeah, it just started coming and looking
It
at
was
houses.
kind of like right when it was what 02. No,
No,
So
I
this
was
type of stuff started to
07,
become
yeah.
in vogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters was really
hunting and
popular,
those
yeah.
days and things like that.
The
Started
Ghost
coming in vogue.
Hunters were what was their name that they went by?
Taps.
Taps,
and
yeah.
these were tops.
Yeah.
You know, they
So-
were kind of
The Ohio Paranormal Society.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're still investigating because I looked them up after we talked and
So they came and they researched, or they didn't research, they investigated the house. And they got some stuff
They caught a shadow. They called it a shadow figure.
going up and downstairs.
It like morphed in front of the staircase and went down the steps.
Yeah. My friend, she was there during the investigation. She got her hair pulled.
Another Elena Ross situation.
So I remember,
Watching the clock.
yes, and it happened during that it happened often, but it happened during that investigation. It was the strangest thing. It was a digital clock, and I had it on the TV stand, and it was like, you would look at it, it was almost like a time jump or something. It would be 9:07, and instantly it would be 9:12.
Right. It would just, and it did that.
It did that
Often.
often. And we used the same clock when we came to our new house, and it never happened again, ever.
But I remember it doing it during that.
During that investigation.
Because, you know,
yeah.
we're sitting there on the couch trying to be silent.
Yeah.
Quiet.
It's almost as if there's a ripple in the space-time
Something
continuum.
weird.
That's
Yeah.
Are you throwing out more science stuff?
like it's,
That was
there's a
the-
lot of science-based stuff here.
Yes,
I mean, Poltergeist is all science-based.
Yeah.
it is.
I know, but he doesn't know anything about
I
science.
do a lot of research. That's my job.
That was probably the first time they came.
Yeah. And then they came again, and we stayed outside in the garage. And I was watching the monitors while they were inside investigating, and no one was in that attic room.
And that they brought another person with
They
them
brought
that
another
time.
person. But in that, on the monitor, I saw an apparition, like just like your classic ghost, like a white mist form in the attic and then just dissipate. And so I called them all out. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys have to run these tapes back. We have to see this. And I had marked it because they had given us a piece of paper when we were watching this too, or a tablet to mark the time down. And I marked it. And we ran it back over and over again, and there was nothing on that tape. But I saw it. It was there.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But that being black and white or whatever, night vision, it looked white to her.
Yeah.
But would that have looked black if you were in the room?
Yeah. I don't
That's
know.
what made
Yeah.
me think of when I saw it over the bed. Like she saw the same
Oh, so
Yeah.
yeah, you're saying.
thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so these people came in. Did they get any noise? Like did anybody?
I think they
There
had
was a
some-
voice, and I cannot remember
I
what
can't
it
remember
said.
what it said.
Well, they gave us a CD with it, with the stuff on it, or a DVD or whatever. And it worked. The day they brought it to show it to us, it worked. We have never been able to get it to work
Every
again.
time you put it in the computer, it freezes.
Yeah.
So
The whole computer freezes up.
I
And it
don't
doesn't
even know
matter
where
what
it's
computer
at.
it is.
at this point, because we moved
Yeah, I
from
know where it's
there,
at.
and then we packed up to rebuild the house, and so I don't even. So I contacted him to see if we could get it.
Just last week.
And he said he remembered that.
He remembered the details
But
of the house.
Something
Even our daughter's
about,
name.
he
yeah.
wanted to come back even. We're like, well, we don't live here anymore.
Yeah.
We got wise.
Yeah.
But
So-
something about one of their team members, they got in an argument over whose footage it was or something, former team member or something.
So anything else that you guys recall that was pretty scary, pretty nefarious? Like, it's
Well,
time we gotta
after
get
they
this
came the second time, that's when it kind of got dark. I
It
don't
just
know.
felt
It
dark.
They brought a guy with them that said that, he said that the dark spirits followed him
or
or
something like that.
And after that, it was just,
It's almost like something followed him there and decided
Well,
to stay.
yeah,
It was not good.
it was, or he drew it in or something.
Something.
Drew it out.
Yeah.
So
Oh, geez.
Ivy's
Well, that's the kind of guy
toys
you want
would-
on the team, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Ivy's
Sounds
toys
like
would
Antonio-
play
sounds like
and that
Antonio
kind of
Brown.
stuff.
Yeah,
We didn't do that before.
You know those sit and spins that the kids
Yeah.
sit on, and if you move them, they start playing a song.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the whole time in that house, you would just be sitting there and it would just go off,
Would it spin or just play?
Just play the music.
Yeah.
And
The new house?
The
Never.
new house,
Not
never.
one
The
time.
same sit and spin,
My aunt, when we were moving out, my aunt was packing. My aunt is she's a very pious Christian. She doesn't really believe in that kind of stuff, but she's packing toys, and everybody all had left with the pickup trucks, and we were packing up my SUV. She's packing toys, and I'm taking stuff out as she packs. So I take a box out, I come back in, she's packing like a crazy person. She's like, these toys won't, all of the toys were going off. She said, get me out of this house. I'm never coming back in here. And she never did. And then my last thing that ever happened in the house, well, I had packed up the last load. I had gone back to the house to check to make sure we had everything. And I was by myself and I had to use the restroom. So I went in, I didn't close the door because nobody was there. Nobody was coming there. So I was doing what I was doing, and the only thing I can tell you, it was like a big box of books right outside the bathroom door, and the bathroom door was open. There was nobody out there, nothing in the house. It sounded like someone dropped this box of books. It was heavy. It was loud. It was like angry. Like I could feel the vibration on the floor. You could feel the thump. There was nothing there that was dropped. So that was the last time I was ever there.
No, let me ask you this. Other than maybe thinking Ivy saw your grandpa, did he show up much there towards the end before you
Not
died?
at the end.
Not at the end.
No, we would see him at the new house.
But so, you always said it felt like he was there
He's-
as a calming,
Yeah.
reassuring.
Like he's
So it's-
watching over you.
So it leads me to think that maybe when the dude comes in and draws out that Grandpa's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Maybe he can't. Maybe he got forced out a little
Yeah.
bit. I mean, did you see the lady at all anymore?
Yeah.
after
Yeah,
that?
To see
occasionally.
her.
You would see her even after they came and
Yeah.
did an
Yeah.
investigation and stuff.
My mom and my little cousin at that time, they were downstairs with Ivy one day, and I went upstairs to get a diaper, and they were in two separate spots. When I come back down, they were huddled together, and this is right before we moved, and on the couch. And I said, "What did you see?" Well, they saw Bess peeking around the corner of the toy room at them. They could see her. My mom, just the other day, I said, "Do you remember what you saw?" She's like, "Yeah, she was looking around the corner. Like we could see her arm and her shoulder."
But they could never really see her
No.
face.
But you could see other details. You could see the ruffle on her collar, on her dress. You could see, like I said, her bun and her hair.
So you definitely knew it was her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You could see the folds in her dress. There was ruffle around the bottom of her dress. Yeah, you could see details. You just couldn't see her face.
We saw her all the time.
Yeah, she was like
From the
lived
whole
there.
time.
When we knew that, and we were okay with that.
So that, yeah.
It was the
other stuff.
other weird
Well,
and not...
if I'm trying to make the connection that maybe Grandpa got forced out, you would wonder if something, but maybe this was her place.
Yeah.
Maybe
She had a
something-
stronger connection to the property.
Well, I think whoever lived there before knew stuff was going on, and I think the lady that bought it knew something. I don't know why. Well, the reason why I think the older couple knew stuff was going on with the locks on the random doors and
Oh, so you think they put the ones that
So
bought
the
it in the
doors wouldn't come
50s,
flying open and
Yeah.
stuff
the
like
ones
that.
that owned it since
They
the
installed the
50s.
locks, yeah.
It's-
other people saw stuff too, because my mom said that I went upstairs and the attic room door was open, and I know it was shut.
And you didn't just open the door.
It drug on the carpet because it was
Right.
an old
Force
door,
it.
and I carpeted it, and you had to.
You didn't plane the bottom of the door enough,
No,
so it would have to
it
drag
was-
a little bit.
It was a room that we went in to get the Christmas stuff out. That was about.
That's about it.
You
His
know?
sister one time used the restroom, and she's a complete skeptic. The bulb above the toilet unscrewed, burst, went down the toilet as she flushed, like all of it. It was the weirdest thing.
Like you couldn't do that again in a million years.
No, and there's nothing, because he runs electric. He knows about. He's not an electrician, but he knows a whole lot about it. He's like, there's no way that could have happened on its own.
That the vibration from the house could have slowly
Yeah.
unscrewed.
It was a good, solid house.
It was
wasn't
weird. So
it wasn't nice when we bought it, but it was solid.
My-
That's why I bought it.
yeah, my nephew who used to stay there a lot, he's 32 now. We were talking about it with him last night. He's like, anytime I was there, one time he house sat, he said, I made sure I had my friend there with me. He said, and any other time I was there and you guys were there, I just tried to block it all out because there was just weird stuff that went on.
So Jerry has some experiences that we've talked about. Jerry, for somebody out there who's listening who may be in a situation like they were in, what advice you have? Because you have some remedies that you would suggest.
Yes, well, tool that we all have is prayer with God. Prayer is a powerful tool for us, and You just have to have like a strong will and be assertive, do some praying, cite some scripture. You can find prayers to say that will cleanse your house online, or even your own prayer will work. But what helps is to go through every room of the house, all the bathrooms, all the closets, all the bedrooms, everywhere. Because if you miss something, chances are that is a room that is an opportunity for whoever's inside the house to hide.
Kind of like when you're trying to get rid of bed bugs. You got to keep every room in. So we talked about, is there things like sage and different things like that, Jerry, that people use to try to
sage is like another.
Well, tell us how you do it. If you were going to go cleanse their house, how would you do it?
Actually, the same way like I just explained, but when you burn the sage, you'll be holding that in the Bible. After you say your prayer, you go throughout the four corners of the room, start spraying the sage, and then you move on to the next one. Then one after that, you hit all the rooms.
Now, did you guys ever try to bring ghost hunters in? You guys never tried to bring anybody to get rid of the...
No, we never did. We did pray a lot, though, and at one point it got so bad that we kind of just commanded it in the name of Jesus that it could not be there. It calmed down, but it didn't leave. I think if we'd have stayed there, it would have taken more than what we had to get it out of there.
And when we left, the last time we left, we stood there at the bottom of the steps, and we told it it was not allowed to follow us.
Yeah.
And, at that time, the ghost hunter shows come out, and you started seeing that stuff.
So you started saying, "Well, look, it may have worked for them. I want to try it."
Yeah.
So then you moved to the new house, and it wasn't one that you built.
It's older than that other house. It's old.
So how long was it before then you saw Grandpa?
Just, I don't know how long, but like when my grandma was really sick and dying, it's almost like he comes and he says, it's okay, don't worry. When she broke her ankle.
Oh, I broke my ankle to the point where it was almost amputated. It was bad.
It was bad.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
When she was in surgery.
This is creepy.
I kind of just sat there in the corner of the room and I said a prayer, and, watch over or whatever. And I said, Grandpa, if you're listening, watch over. The nurse that come in the room to take her, his name was Paul. My grandpa's name was Paul.
Okay.
The doctor that we found to get Ivy, when she had Ivy, she was real nervous about going to a doctor. The doctor's name was Dr. Paul. We had her in Columbus.
Yeah.
And
that was very dramatic too. I almost died. Ivy almost died. Paul saved us.
That's the only doctor that she was comfortable with.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence? Probably. I don't know.
So we're lining. When I broke my ankle, we were lining this up.
Yeah. They took her down.
Yeah.
And they said, the waiting room, they told me where it was. And I thought, well, I'm going to go get some breakfast. Because this was like 5 a.m.
Yeah, it was emergency type situation.
And so I go down and I eat and I start walking towards the room they told me to sit and wait in. And they would come and get me when she was done and take me back. I was walking to it. And I don't know if it was stress or just being tired or what, but like it was like everything slowed down in slow motion and there was like fireflies zipping past me. Next thing I know, I'm sitting in the waiting room. Like I missed the steps halfway down to this waiting room. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, wait a minute.
How did you get here?
They said she'd be done by 11 or whatever. So I go to the desk and I said, is Charma Schiffer, is her surgery done? And they said, oh, yeah, she's back in her room. They looked it up on the computer,
Okay.
And I'm like, well, that's weird. They didn't come and get me. So I go back up to the room. There she is.
So during this time, they've taken me into recovery, right? Mm-hmm. And I wake up. And Tim's there, and I see him over by the door, and he comes over to my bed, and we talk and all this kind of stuff. He was never in the recovery room.
Least that I can remember.
It was strange.
That is true.
Yeah.
Doppelganger, man, and that takes us
It
to a
was
whole
weird.
level
Yeah.
bad.
And I don't know if that's I went all night.
Like we
without
lined up the
sleeping,
times.
and-
I mean, you could tell the time.
I was
there
just in a
surgery
different spot.
And I was
just
waiting
got
on her to say, "Where the heck were you?"
with the
Yeah.
hospital video to see whether or not you were really there.
I mean, I'm waiting on her to say, where were you when I woke up? I'm ready to get yelled at for it.
Nice.
Well, I
be
was
awesome.
just getting nervous. I was just getting nervous at how impressed I was that your wife has an emergency and you're going to get breakfast. I mean, I think that's
Well,
Look, you
food
can't
is
fight
number-
adversity
food is
on
number
empty
one,
stomach.
so,
You just can't.
They're talking about a 3-hour surgery. What else are you going to do? And you're in
Yeah.
Columbus
so
all
you're
by
so
yourself.
how much time do you how much time went by that you were like, I don't know,
Couple
A couple hours. And I don't know if I just fell asleep.
Yeah, but that doesn't explain how you were in the recovery.
Yeah, it was weird. It was strange. So
You weren't doped, were you?
No,
No, then.
No.
She was.
I
Now,
was.
so how long did it take then to sell the house?
About 11 months. Yeah.
So it took quite a while for it to
Yeah.
get sold. And do you guys know? And you don't have to don't say now.
She came from Cleveland.
Okay.
And she worked in Cleveland.
She worked at the Cleveland Clinic, and
Okay.
she drove there.
Every
That's
day.
a long drive. It was weird.
Did she have any
From
connections?
Cleveland, came to Crawford
She
County,
had
Yeah.
no connections.
She was a native Clevelander.
and just said, I want to go buy some random old house
Yes.
in the country and then drive a good hour and 45 minutes.
Yes.
So
With traffic, 2.5 hours if you get stuck.
Yeah.
Because especially from where that is.
Oh, because
she's seen it online, and
She
wanted to
liked
buy
it. I think she knew. I think
it
she
was
had a
almost
connection.
like she was one of those people that knew that was there and wanted to.
So how long did she live in that house?
She's
She's
the
selling
one
it
who just
now.
is selling
So
it
she's
now.
the one.
10, 11 years, yeah.
And she's never reached out to you guys and said, hey.
She's been there, you said, 10 or 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think
And
you
we
need to
asked-
reach out to her.
The neighbors right across the road, we're still really good friends with them, and we've asked them, have you met her? Have you talked with her? And they haven't.
They had never met her, but they met her dogs.
Yeah.
Really?
And some guy that lived with her for a while.
Yeah.
They met.
They did meet her. It's
Well,
weird.
Jerry, you have an assignment.
Oh, I am ready.
Oh boy.
It's time to go talk to this lady.
So one of the things that the judge now has mentioned throughout this is where the house we're talking about, and how it ties into where the dog man occurrence. So judge, you build a house, literally 150 yards across, like diagonal across the field.
Give or
Yeah, we
take.
could
Yeah.
see your house
Yeah,
from
see.
ours.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sure.
And when did you build that house? What was the year?
Oh, it would have been probably 2000. My youngest daughter was born February 10, 2003. And so,
It was before.
we were in the house.
So about the same time you guys
Yeah.
were.
Getting
were-
married and stuff.
We bought the
Yeah.
house in 98 and got married in 2000.
So we were probably
Okay.
in there about a year before my youngest was born. And so it was weird because, it had been farm ground. It just plain farm ground. I mean, it isn't like there had been a house there. We moved in and there was some entity left over. So build a house, we move in, and my oldest child would have been she would have probably been about, because she's 3 years older. So she'd have been about 2 years old. And she started complaining about something bothering her. And, she's 2, so she can speak and she can, explain things, but, not perfectly. And then we noticed that she started getting distressed, like something was really bothering her. And then, she would tell us that, like, one night she's screaming and in the room, and she's telling me that there was a bird in her bed underneath the blankets, a bird flapping, and it was flapping, and, we're ripping the blanket, what's going on here? So it's weird is because at the time, was buying properties and either flipping them or renting them out. We bought this house up on Plymouth Street, and I had a guy that was working on it, and he had found this toy of something. I couldn't tell you what it was now today, and he had given it to my daughter when I'd taken over there. And we started thinking, now wait a minute, all this stuff started happening when he brought that toy in. So weird stuff kept happening, and eventually my mom said, hey, listen, I know this lady who can come out and look at your house. I go, okay. So she comes out and looks at the house, and she says, yeah, there's something in here. Did you bring anything into the house? I'm like, well, I didn't, but... And so finally one night we took it out of the house and we burned it. Now this is going to be weird. So my brother who lived next door had this beagle, and they were on electric shock collars. And so it would never leave the yard because it'd get the hell shocked out of it, right? Because they had these shock collars. The dog, we're out there burning this thing in the driveway, right? And the dog walks right through the electric fence. Walks right through the electric fence, comes over, and defecates on an open flame.
Now that was one brave dog. I would like to thank you for listening and encourage you not to miss next week's episode, where we continue with this thrilling story that can only be heard at the From the Shadows podcast. I am Jason Lewis, the producer. Make sure to tune in for next week's episode as we conclude this interview with Tim and Charma. Now, let me turn you over to your host, Shane Grove, who has a word from this week's sponsor.
We here at From the Shadows podcast would like to welcome a new sponsor this week, Suburban Lanes and Entertainment Center. Our brand new owners Sean and Tasha Ridgway promised to bring you a family-themed, fun-filled night of bowling and entertainment. The facilities are really nice and clean and wait a second, Jerry. What are you doing? You can't put on those bowling shoes without socks. I mean, you can, but no one else is going to want to wear... wait, those are Sean's personal shoes? Oh, boy. Well, get on out here to Suburban Lanes and Entertainment Center, but if I was you, I would steer clear of the neon green size 13s.
Ladies and gentlemen, and with that, we are out.